Hi, Dolores. I just want to pick your brain a little bit there. Obviously, I meet lots of parents, and the main part of our discussion is always around future guardians and future trustees. And of course, discussion about siblings always kind of comes up at this stage. And I'm always kind of intrigued, and I'd actually be very interested to know about, they're obviously saying some parents would be going, oh, I'm hoping that their brother or sister will look after. Others will be saying under no circumstances. And I suppose just from your perspective, have you thought a lot about this for David?
Well, Alan, I suppose I have really, but I have to say there are two angles that you're after coming at there. And I think mine might be a third one, even confuse parents a little bit more. So I was in the lucky situation. I think I hear other parents who say different, but that David was born first. So there is 5 years between David and the twins. So I suppose David had a great old kickstart like that as such. And then he had twins like thrown into his life. And I think some parents say if the child with additional needs is younger, the other siblings pull them on. Whereas I found Sean and Kate actually adapted very well to his life. Going forward, I've spoke to Sean and Kate regarding this. And I think that's probably the most important thing that any parent can do is when the child becomes an age or whatever, that they speak to them, they keep that area of communication open, and they have to want to and help the other children, the siblings, embrace their brother or sister with additional needs. So for instance, as I say, Dave was born first and then the twins came along. So all the twins' friends knew about David. He was brought in, they were brought into the house. They went out everywhere together. There was no hiding. There was nothing like the old-fashioned way of, oh, they've got a brother. Mine were like, yeah, you didn't meet my brother. He's got a cool wheelchair, because they were so young and this was the life they were brought into. I would think everybody loves having siblings and that, but we have to be very careful. Do we what responsibility do we want for them, for their brothers and sisters' lives going forward? And you know what? They have a life too. And that has to be respected. So for instance, this was a conversation, I have it in my letter of wishes, of course, after speaking to Sean and Kate. But would you believe it? It was actually Kate in secondary school, one day driving into school, brought the whole conversation up to me. And I didn't know how worried she was about the future. I thought she was going about her daily life, going in to do her, next year to do her leaving cert, do all this. I didn't think it entered their heads, and Kate drew it up to me. She said, Mom, I'm doing my leaving cert. It's all great. I might travel a while because then I'll be taking care of David, won't I? And it completely stopped me in my tracks, And yes, she brought up. So, you have to be careful. It was in her mind. I didn't
just going to say to you, is it very much you try to individually assess, your children and bring this conversation, or do you do it over time? Or is this something then the older they get, then is the time to start talking about future and guardians and trustees with them? Or how do you?
Well, I presumed that's exactly what was going to happen. I thought when the children would be older, when David would be older, when I'd be older, we'd have all these conversations, So it totally took me by surprise that she, at such a young age, had this in her mind, and again, we must never presume what our children are thinking or how they're feeling. So I was delighted to be able to talk to her. Of course, we didn't do it right there in the car. I said, you know what, that's a great thing, Kate. I have my views on it and we'll talk about it later. And of course, Sean said, yeah, Mum, isn't this it? And I said, hang on a while, we have to talk about all this. Now, I think I'm quite a positive person anyway. So I think I was at an advantage because my father passed away when I was 5. My mum had been very, very sick. My family were all getting married. I was a youngest, or a mistake, or whatever you'd like to call it in the family there. And well, that's what they said. So when they were all married, by the time there was one getting married the year I was born, she was 25. So therefore, I have come from a young age actually being a carer, being there from my mum, because my mum was sick. Great personality, great, fantastic, oh my God, somebody who inspired me all through my life and who I looked up to and admire and still use her qualities today if I can, or be lucky to have some of her. So therefore, I can see what it was like at a younger age and a teenage age, especially, to be that type of carer. So it's always something, you know, that I think about when I think about Sean and Kate becoming carers in their life to David. So there's nothing like that I take like with a pinch of salt at all.
Yeah. And how do you think, like we say, obviously, Sean and Kate growing up with David in their lives, how do you think that has impacted or changed or positively? Do you know, what would you see from that?
Well, I have to say David was spoiled rotten. I mean, every
Still is
whim.
now, Dolores. Still is. Let's not just let
Still
it
is,
go on.
right?
Still is.
Like every whim was met. Like, I mean, everything. You know, he doesn't use his left hand, as you know, and I got called in. Like, I didn't realize, you know, that little stubborn streak they have at 3 and 4. I didn't realize that would last a lifetime, you know. And I remember being called in. David had taken something down in preschool with his from the shelves and never put them back. Crawling now, high kneeling. And I remember being called in because it was Montessori in a strict group. And they said to me, oh, David did this and he didn't put it back. And I remember my first answer like was, did he use his left hand to do it? If he did, please praise him. You know, I mean, so that's how Dave was spoiled. And I was dead nervous when I found out there was twins. I was Annie child. I was dead nervous that like, how would it impact David's life? You know, and I shouldn't have had to worry. And of course, as you know me, Alan, I went and spoke to a consultant about it. You know, how would that affect a child with additional needs who has been so spoiled to have another child? And I was lucky again. The consultant said to me, when it's twins and the older child, they have a different view on things. They see them as together and no threat. So I don't know whether that was true or not, but it was, well, it worked for me. Now, David also doesn't have a jealous bone in his body. It's not an emotion he actually has, which is so beautiful to live in that mind. And that. So for instance, when the twins were born, Dave was really excited about it because he had, all he thought about was two. He had two now, not just one sister brother, he had two, and he loved the idea of having two. And it actually brought out a caring side to David from then. So if they cried and needed a bottle, like Dave was going to be, Mum, they're crying, and Mum, what else? And Mum, what can we do? And he was so brilliant, I felt, with them. And he loved actually watching them react with each other. And he laughed an awful lot.
Yeah.
And the twins didn't know any different. And it actually, look, it makes me smile to this day, the effect it actually had on David's life. Now, the twins' life,
different.
They had to come with me to an awful lot of therapies for David, where they were in waiting rooms and playrooms for a lot of time. And I remember watching them going, oh my goodness, like, you know, and then they're playing with toys, and then they're playing with other children, and they've had a lovely, happy morning. You know, they've seen David do his physio. And then as they got older, they were going, come on, Dave, you can do it. We can do it. Come on, Dave, you know. And what was fabulous for them was the fact that I'd have to be careful, because if they'd say to me, oh, we met, we'll say Maria down at the park, and Maria's coming home, I would never know whether Maria had additional needs or not, because my two didn't see it. They just accepted all children the way they were. So, you know, I could be someone could arrive down, and I'd be hoping the mum would arrive as well, because it could be any condition. So Sean and Kate,
normal for them. This is just norm. This is which it is. This is the world.
This was their normal. This was their normal world.
Yeah, this is the world.
Yeah, and at that time, one of the good things I would say about Enable Ireland at that time was they had summer camps, and Rebel Wheelers did this as well, actually, and they had summer camps for the child with additional needs and their sisters and brothers. No one else could join. So Sean and Kate had lots of fabulous outings with the groups and playtime. And And they felt they were really privileged, because if they didn't have Dave, they couldn't have gone to these camps. And it was wonderful for them to see how other brothers and sisters of a child with additional needs worked with that child. And that was better than any sib shop for me, to see that and have that interaction. And also the parents were always out for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee, and some of them were able to leave their children better than I was. And they'd say to me, come away from them there now and sit down there and have a cup of tea. So it was good all round.
Even from parent to parent, peer to peer. So basically it was always kind of good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. I was always kind of wondering, you know, so it's nice to hear your thoughts on that side of it. So
yeah, I have to say, like, I have been blessed and I'm very privileged. And going forward to the future, I've had those conversations now with Sean and Kate, and we have come up with agreements that are in letters of wishes, so they know what I want, I know what they want. And the most important key part in it is how it impacts David's life and how we all want him to continue as good as he is.
Lovely to hear that. Okay, thanks for your thoughts.
No bother. Thanks, Alan.